go into the room on the left.
Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Otaku podcast, After Dark version. Yes, this is an age-restricted episode, so be advised, naughty words will be used.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway, before we get started, do feel free to follow the Otaku podcast wherever podcasts are found. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free. It's all free. Socials are all in the description. Now let's get started. Today we have a very special episode. We'll be doing Anime Terminology for Dummies Part 2. So if you haven't seen Part 1, go check it out. Today I'm joined by my lovely boys and lovely lady. I'm with Tenza, P, and Minato.
Part 2
I've
Electric
been
Boogaloo Baby.
mispronouncing names lately. It's really nice to have you guys here again. I know that Minato, you and I were on the episode for Part 1, and now we have our two lovely friends here to help us out with this episode, especially I know Tenza has been really excited for this episode.
You bet your sweet ass.
Of course I am.
God, that laugh just says it all. Like, that's how this is gonna go.
Oh yeah, so After Dark, we're going to talk about anime terminology, the ones that are definitely the spicier words, the ones that, you only talk about with your friend groups and you never talk about with anyone else, like you really got to be careful with what you say.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about these outside of those groups at all.
I don't know
Oh, no.
which friends you guys are talking about this stuff with. I don't talk about this with anyone.
Well,
I talk about this with you all the time. What do you mean?
Bro, don't shut up, man.
What happens outside the server stays outside the servers.
No witnesses?
Oh my god.
All right, so does anyone have any suggestions on where they want to get started? Or are we going to let Tenza free?
Actually,
God.
I'd rather have you guys start because I don't want to actually get too lost on a tangent right off the bat.
Okay, well, why don't we start with something easy?
Yes.
Like,
All right.
I mean, if it's like really for dummies, why don't we start with what is hentai?
All right, let's just get right into it. So, at first, I do want to just say a really funny story about the word hentai, is that there was a taco convention happening in my city, and my dad was looking at an ad for it, and on the ad it said that there was a hentai convention, but my dad pronounced it as hentai and was very confused. And yes, I had to explain it to him, and I feel very bad that I had to explain it to him.
That's funny.
So
that's
how about
funny.
I'll let someone else explain it to the audience. So someone please tell me what hentai is.
Well, hentai is basically when you transition from anime to you mix anime with erotica, basically like a level past ecchi, in the same way as how there are regular shows and porn.
Yeah.
The main difference is that porn is not animated and hentai is pure animation, and it comes in many forms.
Yeah, some have actual stories, like full-blown stories.
Oh, I find those all the time. That's not new. That's also one of the main ideals because, like in pornography, it can vary from just the scene that you want to see versus a full-blown story of 22 chapters and you don't know where you start.
Yeah, I respect the art behind it, but like we all know why we're here, okay? You don't have to like have a pretense of like, oh no, the people come here for the story because we're so artistic. Like we know what we're here for, okay? We can just cut to the chase.
No, we're actually here for the plot and you don't know it yet.
What a twist!
God damn it.
Yeah, so far the word hentai really, it means abnormal or perverted. So sometimes you'll hear a lot of terminologies of people just saying like you are hentai, like you're perverted, you're abnormal. For anyone who's kind of just like way too over top and over sexualizes anime. Sometimes you'll hear it in that context, but most of the time when you hear hentai, it's really just to do with the material itself.
Actually, so funny enough, like in pretty much all the anime I've watched, the only time I ever hear that word is in using it the first way that you described, like as calling someone a pervert, and only like talking about it in North America
Yes.
have I heard it used to refer to like pornographic anime. You know?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
because they have different terms in the source material place. Like in Japan, they don't use that term because hentai is just what we call it here. And the same way that even in Japan, there's like many words to call someone pervert. Like the ones that I commonly hear is actually sukebe, but and obviously the trained molester chikan, for example, which is also hentai material if you look hard enough.
Of course, there is.
It's really more of what North America refers to, because for all that I know, I have not heard them refer to anything specific. Like, for example, I know that they will refer ecchi as ecchi content, but I'm not quite sure if the thing is that they don't exactly call hentai, but they call it something like H18. So that's what happens when you go into Japanese adult websites and you try to translate and see what it translates to.
Sounds like you have a lot of experience in that, Tensa.
Goddamn right.
Of course.
Okay, well, at least we're being upfront.
It always starts with one finger, and then you basically.
All right.
So it looks like we really do have our expert today. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're gonna roll with it anyway. But yeah, ichi. Ichi's also used a term that's used a lot in anime. Well, when referring to any sexual content, because it's usually just
I would not call it quite sexual. Like, how can I say it?
sexual themes, like things without being
yes,
explicit.
mildly, yeah. I would say very
Yeah.
mild, like
Spicy.
how some
Spicy.
and this is why a lot of teen shows targets prepubescent kids and oh look, we're looking at her butt or something like that, or concho or whatever. Like things that are very mild but hilarious situation, and you're like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. While hentai goes straight up all the way to home run.
Yeah.
like no such thing as first base sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely the first part of it. So moving on, we could even the terms that I'm thinking of that are more after dark that I remember that I wasn't sure if we should mention last time were going right into the yaoi and yuri category.
Oh, the easy stuff. Okay.
Yeah, well, it is a term that you hear a lot, even
Yes.
just within the anime community a lot because it's fairly
Yes.
normalized. It's queer, so I feel like it's okay to explain that, even though a lot of times that can fall into the spicier category at
Yes.
times,
And
depending.
if you want to go with the boy love, girl love, then we might as well also add futanari too.
Yeah, you know what? Sure. So let's start out with describing what yaoi is. Does anyone else
Oh.
want to take that on, or
No?
do
Okay, well,
you know what
I
yaoi
mean-
is? Too?
Yeah. Yaoi is essentially MLM, which is male love male. I guess there's like different levels to it. Usually it's always spicy, as you were saying. But there are some where it's very mild and where it's actually just people are there for the plot itself and not for the rest of it. I guess an example could be like Sekaiichi Hatsukoi or Love Stage, which were both very mild when it came to spice content, but the story itself was pretty good.
Yeah, like most of the time, it's really just gay content. It's just it's
Yeah.
for the queers. it's sometimes it's all full of fan service, but you know, it really depends on how far you want to go down into that category, because
Yeah,
you can go pretty deep.
yeah, like even though I would consider 3 to be mild. But
Yeah.
and on top of that, there are also there are some subsections of yaoi. For example, there is one that addresses to otokonoko, which is basically traps. You know, boys that just looks like girls, or as we would call them, femboys. There's also the bara yaoi, where it's the big, hairy, muscling man.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
So it's this thing where that I found that there's like in this section there's so many subsections that you will easily get lost to.
Just like in real erotica. No,
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
No,
because there's there's a lot of it then.
Have I tipped
And
my
I
hand?
think it's
And
amusing.
I'm just like, yeah, whatever you say, man.
Whatever you say is gospel, Minato.
Basically.
I won't argue with you.
All right.
So what about Yuri? So Yuri would be the other side to that, right?
Oh, I can tell you
Yes,
all
that
about. I
would be
mean,
girl on girl.
Minato, take it away.
no. Tensa already said it. It's fine. It's just the same as yaoi, but with girls. It's fine.
You don't have any personal stories?
No, nothing to share.
Not
You sure
not at
about
all.
that? You seemed very eager when it was brought on.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's fine.
It's fine. We all know your secrets.
Shut up, Tensa. Come on, man.
Shh. They don't know that. We know that they know.
Hey, there's no shame here. There's no shame here. You know, we love a bit of the Yuri story here and there. You know.
Oh yeah, some of them were really fun.
Oh yeah, some of them are adorable. Honestly, I find that I'm not well versed in much of the spicy content, but the Yuri, I find that the Yuri is a lot more wholesome, and the yaoi could be a bit more intense,
Dirty.
depending.
Yes. Down and
Yeah,
dirty.
a
And
little.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I find that it's just more wholesome. I like it. You know, it's cute, especially I can't think of the names of the examples though, but yeah.
The way that I see it, is a lot like Sakura Trick.
Yeah.
Where Yuri seems to focus a lot in the relationships themselves, hence why it comes across as more wholesome. While yaoi, there is a lot that focuses on relationships, kind of like gravitation, but at this point I just call it boys love. While the more intense stuff, I just call it yaoi, and this is why we go into darker places. Just like how I see a lot of Yuri torture stuff. And it's just amazing.
Oh, wow. You're enjoying this a little too much, aren't you?
Yes, I am. It's definitely this entire episode is definitely my kind of episode.
Well, why don't you take it away for what are we talking about next? Tell me something I don't know.
Well, I did mention Futanari, chicks with dicks.
Oh
Or properly, Futanari literally means basically two genders because they both have parts, functional parts. So this is where it gets a little weirder because, this is where you have all of the weird steamy threesomes, heightened libido, and it just gets nasty and dirty all the way.
Oh, behave.
Yeah, I will say like that stuff. The futa stuff is like which is like the shortening of that, and that's what most people I think call it by. Yeah, you're already at that point you're past any like implications of plot and stuff, and you're kind of just there for like the spicy content,
Yeah, like even the plot itself is spicy content all the way. Like I've read through a series, I've watched series, like even Bible Black, the entire plot is spicy content.
Damn,
It's so great.
it's the forbidden movie marathon.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's once you've reached the dark side, there's no going back.
Speaking of which, what is the next term?
Well, I guess we can backtrack a little bit because I've noticed that like you could almost take any anime genre and
Yes.
there is a dark side to almost every anime genre, Like isekai,
Yes.
the genre of that is used quite heavily in hentai.
I have not seen a lot of that though. Like
Oh,
I've
really?
seen, yeah, if anything, most of them they don't have the concept of isekai in the first place, most of them, because it's not a thing.
Well, I feel like we got to compare some notes.
Definitely.
I've noticed
I
Do
just
tell,
think
Andy.
that
Do tell.
I'm not telling it.
I just think that you actually end up in the isekai section of hentai, which, no shame in that.
Well, it
Like,
exists.
yes, it does. Like, but I'm like, I tend to be in a more either realistic side, the more darker side, the ones that involves drugs.
What?
Sometimes netorare. It depends. Like, it really depends. And by the way, yes, netorare. We call it NTR for short, and it's one of the darkest genre of hentai. It's basically cuckolding, if you will. It's basically the idea of a guy dating a girl. Everything starts wholesome sometimes, and another guy steals your girls in front of you.
Now that's fucked up.
And
Oh.
sometimes just fucks the shit out of her in front of the first guy.
My God.
Yes, that's what I mean by, it gets dark pretty fast.
Kind of upset. I know
obvious-
that now.
Obviously, as a series, like as a genre, it tends to be intense, and some stories I've seen, like one that actually has a 22 chapter story, and I even find it pretty realistic of the damages that it causes. The series is called Neturasere, and it's this kind of thing where, not done carefully, it destroys entire relationships, marriages, and everything. It's just,
Yeah, I can see that. Also, Andy, I just want to say, you can't be mad because this whole thing was your idea.
This whole operation was your idea.
Oh, I'm not mad at all. I'm right now. I'm just trying to think because I feel like I had a lot more ideas and terminologies in my head, but clearly Tensei's pulling a bunch of terminologies I've never heard of before in the spicier side of anime, because it's definitely a different community going
really
to that side, but it's so close. Like it's like a very it falls into a gray area most terms, I notice. Because some of them are used in mainstream, some of them are not. Like in mainstream anime.
So actually, like, one thing that is kind of mainstream, more of like a meme, I guess, but it's also a real thing, is like tentacle hentai. Is there an actual word specifically for that?
No, tentacle is its own genre, and the tentacle stuff it's obviously it's common, but it's to the point of meme because it's just like it's like the standard.
Yeah, but is there like an actual term for it?
No, it's just called tentacles.
Okay.
That genre I honestly thought I feel like it has to have its own word. I'm a little disappointed.
And of all the things, like, in hentai, that's probably the most mainstream, which is the funniest thing ever. Well,
Yeah.
mainstream in that like most people would know about that.
No, exactly. It
Well,
would
if you-
make more sense that way.
Like, what's the hype behind it though? I don't see the point of it.
Well, it's more of a meme because it's a real thing, but then people talk about how like
It's historical, actually.
historical.
Yes. Maybe you are not aware of old art, but there is an art in 1863 by Hokusai called The Fisherman's Wife, and it's basically the painting of a woman being ravaged by an octopus.
Oh my god!
Damn, go off 1863.
Yes. So you can say that anti-erotica was there before anime was a thing, if we will go that far. Because paintings of those were common at the time. But the octopus and the woman, that's totally out there.
I'll be honest,
But-
you said that, and then the boys' theme song just started playing in my head. Have any of you seen The Boys?
Yeah,
A little bit of it.
but I don't remember the theme song. Is there even a theme song?
There is a theme
Well-
song.
It's been used as a meme now, and so don't worry about it. My brain is going to do its own thing. I will be just in the corner over here.
Okay, well you have your corner. I don't really want to know what you're doing over there.
Do you, boo boo? Do you, boo boo?
No, it's just
Oh
a
my god, don't
bad-
give me ideas.
I know, I'm joking.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like it'd be interesting to, because I actually wouldn't know about this one, but are there like prominent characters of hentai that like
It
are well known?
It depends on the artists, and really it's like I would not say that there are quote unquote prominent hentai characters that are that well known, because it's like they're all there for short story, and I would say that more often than not, you will have a lot of parodies on your regular shows. Like this is the case of Dojinshi, where we can parody a show that you already know and love, and we're basically just turning it into a spicy scene. Like, so in the same way that I can find Persona extreme stuff, I can find some original content that are not so extreme. Like, I would say that one of the more well-known would be Saki Yoshida. Ever heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
This one is from Emergence from Shindoel. the degradation of a regular girl into basically a street whore before she dies of an overdose in the bathroom.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, that's unfortunate.
Well, damn.
Yes. It's actually one of the most well-known hentais to date.
Oh, you know what? I think I actually just answered my own question in my head, because technically there's a hentai that got made into an anime, so it was kind of like the opposite trajectory. Miss Nagatoro.
It's not a hentai though.
Wasn't it?
No. I've read the comic strips from Nanashi 774, and that was not a hentai.
Oh, I remember hearing that it was, and that they made it into an anime that, like, you know, obviously wasn't X-rated. Huh.
That's very strange, because I've read the manga, and it has enough. It was very ecchi, and it's like super ecchi, but it never crossed hentai as much as I'm concerned.
All right. Well, then we can just forget about everything that I said.
Oh, that's totally fine. It's just that I was not aware that, oh, that's a thing. And the reason why I don't think it was, in fact, it's because, like, think of it like this. The way that I've seen it is that I've seen this as a very webcomic-y thing, like One Punch Man.
Mm-hmm.
But I never seen it as far as, well, as you said it yourself.
Well,
As
maybe it's a bit of the case of like the telephone game where like, somebody sees it as really raunchy and like ecchi, and to them that is hentai, but to someone else that's like, more well versed in it,
I think what it was is that the guy was on Pixiv, and Pixiv is a good hen house for doujinshi, if you know what I mean.
I don't actually. What's
Um,
doujinshi?
Doujinshi is basically and think of it as fan-made manga, but we usually use these terms for like, that's what hentai but in drawn form is.
Oh, okay.
So I think that you might be right to a degree. It's just that because I've seen the comic strips, but maybe there was a web comic before. That's what I was trying to say. And by those very comic strips, maybe it was hentai and I just missed it, which I can see it if that's the case. But
Right, because at its root, it is like a good amount of it, or at least I think the way it starts is like pretty raunchy, right? So.
Good.
Yeah, because it seems to cross the line a lot for sure. So I would not be surprised if it did, but considering who I am subscribed to in my own Pixiv, I do think that if there were more raunchy stuff, he either removed it or that it was never there in the first place.
Gotcha.
This video is sponsored by NordVPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It's a tool that encrypts your internet traffic and hides your IP and virtual location. You might be asking yourself, why do I need this? Well, you like watching anime, right? Or shopping online? Or browsing the internet using the public Wi-Fi? But are you aware of the digital snooper? It can be anyone, such as your internet provider peeking at your internet activities, or a cyber criminal attempting to steal your credit card info, or a hacker near you trying to steal your sensitive data. This is where NordVPN comes in. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites, and lets you enjoy your favorite anime content securely and remotely. NordVPN also allows you to overcome internet censorship. All your traffic is routed through a remote server, so you can access websites that are restricted in your country. If you want to watch anime that is only available in Japan and not in your country, then use NordVPN to connect to Japan's server. It's that easy. NordVPN is available on most devices. You can also download NordVPN from the App Store. Use our link to download NordVPN. Get started today to protect yourself.
Given that the artist draws also raunchy things, it's hard to it's hard to know for certain.
Yeah, I'm sure. Must be a lot to sift through.
Oh yes, and it never ends.
Oh my.
But the most that I remember from even the web comics is really just Nagatoro bullying senpai. That's why I was like, not sure, but maybe he's right.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I mean, I didn't read the manga myself. I just heard, from someone I know that was the, I guess the impression that people had on it. But I wouldn't know.
I would say the impression makes sense because the reason why I would say the impression has to do with the history of the author, and by his history, it's easy to surmise that he would definitely do lewds of Nagatoro. Like, even I would say, why wouldn't he? Like, it's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, I just didn't see any. So maybe I was very late. Maybe it was a thing before, and maybe it was deleted, but I've never seen any of it. And so as far as I was concerned, it was like a short stories, right? And It's just ecchi that became a bit etchier, but not too ecchi.
Yeah. But even then, like I guess that would probably be the most, or one of the more prominent characters in like mainstream.
Mainstream, but she was never part of hentai in the first place.
Yeah,
That's
not
what-
hentai, but like ecchi, I guess. But then there's a
Yes,
lot
like-
of other stuff that
like
that's
for
out there.
all that I know, I can just I can just talk you for hours about euphoria, and I'm pretty sure that no one wants to cross that dark place.
Yeah, trying to think of other terms like I don't know.
I see.
I guess there is Chinran, which is I don't know why I know this, but it's essentially like a fetish where like an alien or a monster usually impregnates a woman, and like she bears the offering like in the form of eggs.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
And I think the translation is supposed to be egg laying, but I'm not sure. It might be wrong.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
The problem is that I don't see that with aliens. I most often see that with monsters and insects.
Mm-hmm.
Just as weird.
You don't say.
Yeah, well, like T said, I guess it all fits into the same category, right?
Yeah.
What did you say the word was again, T?
Chinran, which is CHINRAN.
Okay, because that's the first time that I hear about like the actual term. Like I know that it's a thing. I just didn't know the term for it.
Same here. Like I was familiar with the English name for the tag, not the actual original name for the tag.
What's the English name for the tag?
She just said it egg laying.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. I hate now. I know how Andy felt. I hate that I know this now.
My apologies.
And you're actually kind of right. The prototype series itself involves a lot of fandom.
Oh, okay. There you go. I was onto something. Let's go.
Oh no, I actually just read. No, never mind. I've read the issue 5s. But yes, it's still the point still stands. I think it just never crossed the line to hentai. But I think the reason why it never crossed that line is because it got so popular.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's all very interesting.
Yes.
Wait,
But
there
yeah.
is actually a term for tentacle porn in Japanese.
Oh yes, okay.
What is it?
Yes.
It's shokushu, SHOKU.
That's just tentacle. That's just tentacle. That's not even
It's just
tentacle porn.
tentacle?
That's
Okay,
just tentacle.
But like, wouldn't it technically translate to
It-
tentacle porn? Because I tried
No,
looking
it
for
just
it.
translates to tentacle. I know.
You're wrong.
Okay, God, okay, well, look, I thought I made a
Very
discovery. Okay, I
knowledgeable.
was really excited. Why you gotta put me down like that, huh? Huh? Gosh darn it.
That's because
Go
you
at it.
love me.
Go after it, T. Destroy him.
That's just how I am. It's the fact that at some point before this podcast, at some point I actually called myself Shokushuho, aka the Tentacle King.
Nani?
Oh god.
So I know what I was doing.
There's a
Remember-
history to that.
Remember, guys, you're not the ones who was reading architectural tentacle porn to people.
Huh?
You were reading it to people?
Yes.
I'm
I
sorry,
was
why?
Campfire stories were funny.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's one thing you can recount.
But
Recount again.
in this case, it was a written fanfic, or what we tend to call a lemon.
A lemon?
A lemon, yes.
Like the fruit.
Yes, we just call it a lemon.
Okay.
It's
Interesting.
basically fanfic porn in this case. And when you read a story about an octopus invading the halls of a school and how it reacted to as if it was a woman, let's just say that you get all kinds of reactions.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was
Trying to
beautiful.
think of it was beautiful. You know, it's really interesting how with the anime community, because what I mentioned earlier when my dad was mispronouncing the word hentai and calling it henty, which is still my favorite pronunciation to this day, is how close it is with the regular community. Because it was on the poster, it was advertised. It's like, oh, here's the anime convention. By the way, hentai's right across the street. You know, it's like it's right underneath you.
Excellent.
That's
It's
something.
it's so celebrated, and it's interesting how quickly it transitions. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's great. I'm all for sex positivity, man.
Is that so?
I
Okay.
think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's funny as hell, but it's also like we should be more open about that kind of thing. Like if you want to partake, you go for it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. I just think that people are just more, how can I say this? Obviously, yes, there are a lot of people about it, and I like that people are just willing to just talk more about their interests. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of there's since animes. I don't want to say since anime became mainstream because as far as I'm concerned, it's been mainstream for a very long time. But I think there's been a very large spike in anime watchers with COVID because regular TV shows, you know, couldn't film anything, but anime was able to keep going. There's been a lot of critiques online of the over sexualization, the ichi of that's within anime. What do you guys think about that? We're definitely diverging away from the terminology, but there's a lot of terms, but also there's not enough terms. So what do you guys think about people critiquing it like that?
I think that the people critiquing it like that has to do with the fact that they don't know what they're talking about more often than not because they're not really exposed to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the same time, when I actually say that there is a dark side to it, there really is a dark side to the to hentai in general. So, and on top of that, the problems that real world events that influence the minds of people made it so that it has been vilified for a while. Like there is literally the otaku killer that basically shaped the view of otakus and most people through like the eyes of a normie. That's a thing.
Otaku killer? Can you explain that to me?
What do you mean by that?
Yes, and if I remember well, there's a killer in 1989 that basically killed a 4-year-old girl, but basically the guy was obsessed with otaku. So Tsutsumu Miyazaki, if you have the chance, and he's a serial killer that killed girls from ages 4 to 7, dismembering them, and stuff like that.
Ugh.
And yes, the guy is called the Otaku Murderer.
Ugh.
On top of that, he did some pretty disturbing things like necrophilia, molesting their corpse, cannibalism, preserved bodies as trophies, all sorts of things.
Stop it. Get some help.
Oh,
That's the problem. Because he was nicknamed as such for a long time, since 1989, the otakus has been stigmatized due to the association with him, because this guy has like stuff like he has porn, he has horror stuff, and if you combine the both, that makes guro, um, which is also a type of hentai that you can find. You can also find cannibalism too, and necrophilia. That's what we mean by we're already at a point where you can find a little bit of everything, just like the internet. But again, when you have a killer that is associated with the otaku as a whole, then there is this sense of this is associated with them, so therefore this is unwanted. You see the issue, right?
Yeah, well, I definitely see the issue, and that's for me. That's definitely a side of hentai that I've never explored and know very little about.
And in a sense, it's better not to know about it.
Yeah, definitely.
because I would even agree that if it wasn't for a person like him doing such horrible crimes, I fully would think that otakus would be seen more favorably in general. But the point is also the fact that I will also point out that because those are drawings, right? Those are drawings, those are cartoons, and people in North America often associates cartoons with stuff for children. But if I
Yeah.
bring a 4-year-old child to watch BoJack Horseman, sorry, what's the name of that show again?
BoJack Horseman.
I think that's the name of the show.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, if it's that's
BoJack Horseman. Yes.
Yeah.
They would cry. They would just cry.
Yeah, well, almost most cartoons nowadays that are being developed are not suitable for kids.
Exactly. No, my point is that it's so unsuitable for kids that would destroy their minds. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of it is really a misconception, misinformation and also politicians themselves spreading misinformation for the sake of money. So
No,
Yeah.
well, they're doing that with almost every single alternative community out there. Like the furries are just being relentlessly attacked, and they've done nothing wrong but dress up in fursuits and have fun.
and while I find that cringe on a personal level, it's not even a bad thing because they're like keeping it to themselves, and it's not like I've never heard of a furry killer. You know what I mean?
Well, not yet, anyway.
Let's hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, knock on wood. No, but it's definitely attack. Like, of course, if you really want to get into that, politicians and all that attack all different types of alternate communities. You can go into the punk rock communities. You can go into scene emo communities. Like you can look into almost every alternative form of genre that went against social norm, and that it was attacked and villainized and demonized. You know, because they didn't understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and anime and all that definitely falls under that, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's definitely there's because with the Otaku Killer, there's definitely a big dark side to anime and to that
Yes.
community that still exists, even in terms of hentai. Because I think like I definitely agree with you that hentai and the hentai community is very fun and very funny, and is definitely joke. And when it's like done, like when it's like well communicated, when it's well respected, and it's a pretty fun a fun adult area of the anime community, but there's definitely a very dark underbelly to it.
Yes.
There are definitely people who take it too far, and then there are definitely people who don't respect a lot of it.
And and on top of that, there is also a lot of delusional peoples like the Otaku Killer himself that probably had fantasies that probably derived from what he watched that actually tried to bring it to life, which are the most dangerous.
Well, didn't they? Isn't technically, and well, I don't know. I really don't know much about this, so I'm really talking out of my ass here. But because a big problem with the young population of Japan is that a lot of them are very depressed, and they say
and they're
that a part of that
they're also
is
decreasing.
yeah, because no one's banging each other.
Damn!
They're like pandas. But
a lot of
some people blame that on anime, and
it's a lot of people want to blame anime for something for an issue that doesn't exist, while their issues with that is actually somewhere else.
yeah, it's more social and political, right?
yes, it's definitely social political in and of itself. The ideas, for example, the ideas that certain crimes are not that strict at all, and often stuff and as it's being an aging populations, because the elders are always being put first and the youngs ones last. We know where this is going.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the kids get the short end of the stick.
They always do, unfortunately, and this is kind of why even me, I don't mind wanting to visit Japan, but under no uncertain circumstance that I will live there. Like I will not ever live there
Yeah.
because of their issues are just increasing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely brings into a lot of the darker sides of anime. It reflects a lot of what's happening in Japan.
Mhm.
So it's definitely and thing is, it's really funny when the West gets a hold of it, they don't notice how real it is. Like, there's a song that talks there's I think you guys know the song, but the lyrics are actually very sad and depressing, but the song itself is really, really happy.
That's most Japanese songs.
Yeah, exactly. But we're vibing to it over here, but we have no idea what the lyrics are. And usually they talks about dark stuff like suicide and depression and things like that.
The good stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but it's by Yoasobi.
Yoru ni Kakeru,
Yep, that's it.
Racing into the Night. That's actually one of my favorites.
It's a really good song, but it's a very sad song.
Yeah, when you actually learn that the girl that he was following was never real, that was kind of dark. Because that girl was actually representative of his will to kill himself in the first place. I do follow YOSOB for a year now, so so even as a joke, I think I used to have like a video where you have like your ringtone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has the regular ringtone, and the ringtone starts going into racing into the night, and you actually see Jesus basically being a DJ.
No way.
Yes, I used to have that video, and it was great. But yeah, racing into the night. Yeah, it's the fact that I'm aware of that song. Keep in mind that we have some weird songs. I think I had one Russian also. I just forgot the name of that song. I'll probably get back to you on that one. And it's the same way that people have like pumped up kids, and like it seems catchy, but once until you listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh god, it's a school shooter, you know?
Yeah, that blew my mind the first time I learned about that. Like I just like, because I don't listen to that song very much, so I was just like, oh, yeah, okay, it's a fun song. And then I listened to the lyrics and I was like, oh no, oh no, okay.
Oh no!
Exactly. That's why for me, Pump Pump Kids, the first time I've listened to it, I'm like, why would you put this in the radio?
People are weird.
It has to do with the fact that it's in the same way that Outkast when they were more active, they made a song called Hey Ya, and the point of that song is that no one actually listens to the song.
Yeah.
And they were right, because you've listened to the lyrics and it's super depressing, but the beat is so but the beat behind it is so upbeat that you kind of ignore it. And the difference is that with Japan, they do that with all sorts of songs. Like they do that all the time. Like you'll find out that the happiest people sing sad songs for the sake of it, and the opposite. We even have hardcore metal rock bands singing silly songs while they're dressed up as bees and basically doing some weird Snow White. So it's just there.
That sounds incredible.
It is once you're neck deep into it.
Yeah, so here we started at talking about hentai and terminology, and now we've gone to the dark side of Japan.
Yes, because I would think that the dark side of Japan would influence the dark side of hentai, because again, like, even though that I talked about Netorari, that's not even the dark side. That's just the beginning. But like I said, there's stuff like mind control. I did mention Guru, which is basically gore mutilations and the kind of
yeah.
stuff that serial killers would like. Like, those stuff does exist.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't shock.
And
I'm saying things that it doesn't shock me, considering that
it's
what we've been talking about.
it's the fact that it's this thing where if you learn about hentai the first day and then you go there, you'd be screaming like, oh my god, no, and you'd be very uncomfortable, and I understand that. But once you're seasoned like me,
Everything passes.
Yes, nothing surprises you anymore, and that's where I'm at.
Well, there's still a way
I-
to enjoy hentai without having to there's some nice wholesome hentai out there. Don't
yes,
worry.
we call those vanilla for a reason.
Yeah, and it's funny when you call it vanilla, considering I don't consider hentai vanilla at all.
It's all a matter of perspective.
It is a matter of perspective.
There's actually a lot of vanilla hentai. I can actually easily describe you a bunch of them, and a lot of them are actually wholesome because they actually focus more on the plot than the spicy stuff. Not to say that there is no spicy stuff, but the plot makes the spicy stuff more relevant, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes it's often a love story, or someone got drunk, they've done an innocent mistake with a coworker or stuff like that, and they got along better, and cuter things. That's why we call those vanilla, because those are kind of like the wholesome side of it, if you will.
That's true. That is true. I agree with you.
But the moment that you start walking on fetishes, and I mean the stranger ones, that's where it gets less vanilla.
Yeah, you uncover a lot real quick.
Basically, it's a huge rabbit hole.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Oh yeah. Well, we definitely dive. I feel like we dove right into the rabbit hole and then started like back in and out again. So
I've never let you go past half of the hole.
And frankly, I'm happy that you're protecting us from that, Tenza. I really do, because we definitely don't want to go too far. But that rabbit hole still exists if anyone wants to explore that. But do explore at your own risk, please.
And caution, because there are
it goes
times that I lost sleep over.
Oh boy, man, this really is the After Dark version, but we're not going to get that far.
Not today, at least.
Yeah, on that cherry note.
Oh yeah, that episode will just be a Tenza only episode.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Just Tensa monologuing about all the messed up stuff that he's seen.
Oh yes, that will be a forbidden episode. That we'll put that in the vault of episodes never to be released.
Unlisted.
You will make me look like a war veteran by the end of it.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up for this episode. Does anyone have any last minute things they want to spurt out that they're just dying to say, or do you think we covered a pretty good chunk of the After Dark?
I think we've been to the abyss and back, and I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah, we're all good. Like we're not going deeper.
Yep. You good, T?
I am 100% okay.
I believe you. I believe you. All right. Well, that's it for today. If you were scarred for life, we do apologize. our next episode, we'll be going back to our regular shenanigans. So, but before you leave, please check out our Twitch channel at the official Taco Crew. We play games. It's chaos, and we love it. And do follow us. Follow us on Anchor, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. You subscribe to our YouTube channel, and let us know if any terms that we missed or don't. You could always keep it to yourself, or let us know what we should talk about next.
I would say give it to us in the comment section.
Yeah, it's free. We listen to it, we read it, and you can also check out our Discord channel, and you can talk to us there, and we can discuss more. So, thank you all for listening and sticking with us for this episode. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.
See ya.